Hello, so this will be a video about guns, damage types, and also the ammunition the guns use, but also we'll be talking about possible builds and why sometimes you just die very fast to some enemies. Now, you have the basic resistances over here, but keep in mind that cat is also plasma, or it's a combination of some elements of plasma. Cold and fire make up entropy, but the lowest value will always be chosen. So if you have 66 fire and 62 cold, entropy resistance will be 62. If you have 60 fire and 62 cold, then the entropy will be 60 fire, which is, yeah, you get the idea. Poison, shock, and some other stuff, but as you can see, my guns have some very cool things. You press Alt to see this. There are a lot more stats that matter on the guns, but first of all, let's start with the ammo types. I guess it will be easier to explain it like this. So you remember Dilt and how I always say them? Well, there's a very good reason for that. It's not really their weapons or how they play the game or what they use against you. It's mostly their ammo. So let's look at the basic ammo first of all. By the way, there are a lot more ammo types that is very hard to get. For example, the Elerium energy ammo, it spoils after a period, but it does a lot more damage and it has very good stats for energy weapons. The makeshift battery gives you 50% more damage, but has some debuffs, right? The basic one gives you 8% crit chance, but the DLT battery, as you can see, gives you a little less damage, but it doesn't even matter. 20%. 20% is a huge change, in my opinion. Crit chance modifier, then it also gives you a little bit of accuracy and also less scatter. So, yeah, whatever gun they use, if they put ammo DLT battery in it, it will be much more deadly. Especially when you have high damage weapons like a sniper rifle, and we'll show you some of those as well. Let's go to the bullets. Also, this is a much better example. So you have 9mm bullets that deal blunt, explosive, and cut damage. So the basic bullets will just give a little bit of crit chance and knockback. You can kind of understand that it's because of the balloon damage, blunt, and also the explosive ammo is not really that good against the player. It's more useful when you have a gun that can shoot at entire enemy lines. But even so, it has a little bit of a reduced utility. But again, it also depends on what gun you have. It's not entirely useless, but as you can see, it has a little more scatter. This is kind of like the fun part over here. As you can see, 9mm HP, which just is flash damage ammo, does a lot more damage. Also has a much better crit chance. So if you get critted by one of these bullets, yeah, the problem will be the scatter modifier is increased by 40%. Scatter is the more bullets you shoot, the less chances you have of hitting the enemy. So if you have a lot of scatter and shoot a lot of bullets, you'll not be accurate. Also, it's not really dependent on the weapon, it's also depending on other factors like bonuses, augments, and some other stuff. Also, this is wounding. So basically, if you get wounded by one of these 9mm HP bullets, it will feel like you got hit by a heavy bullet or even a DLT energy ammo. That's why some enemies are even dangerous with single pistols. But lucky for us, this ammo is rare. On the other hand, if you want to stockpile it, you can probably imagine some very good builds. So if you get, let's say, a basic pistol, cheap, you upgrade it 10 times, then you find a stack of 80 9mm HP ammo. As you can imagine, that will go a long way in clearing a few missions. So it's very deceiving how the ammo is used to kind of trick the players into thinking the guns of the enemies are safe. Nothing is really safe. Also, they did some changes to the shotgun ammo, and I guess it will be easier to explain if I arrange the ammo like this. So, the buckshot ammo will reduce your range by 1, and it also will scatter the bullets very much to the point, well, the shells, to the point where you'll not hit anything at long range, but a little more damage, a little more crit chance, and also accuracy. So as you can see, this is the big if. Why is it so weird to understand all of this weird pattern? Well, you have to think about it normally. So the range of the shotgun gets reduced, so it does less damage and is less accurate at ranges that are bigger than the minimum. You also have a scatter mode of 100%, so that means if you do a burst shot, it will be much harder to hit anything. But it's more accurate. Accuracy doesn't really mean much if you shoot multiple bullets and you have a lot of scatter. So Just think of it like this. Accuracy is good for one bullets, and if you shoot multiple bullets, more than one, that means scatter will come into play and it will kind of completely nullify the bonus you get from accuracy. This is intentional, so that's why buckshot will feel like it's amazing when you single shot it. So that's why pump action shotguns are a little better for this, not auto ones, but you don't really have anything better. Also, this is cut damage, 5 fragments. So that means you fire 5 fragments that might hit. I think about 3 of the fragments will hit an enemy. Again, it depends on other modifiers as well. Then you get to the slugs. As you can see with slugs, you actually get 1 extra range. So this is where the game really tricks the players. Let me see. So you have a gun that has effective range of, let's say, 3. If you put a slug, it will have 4. If you put a buckshot, it will only have 2. So you have to kind of look at the stats as well and choose what you want to use it for. On the other hand, this will be kind of like a good sniper weapon, and you also have a chance to knock back the enemy, but also knockdown. Knockdown is a stun, but it's not really that big of a stun. But if you stun and knock back the enemy, then it will really count because the enemy will not be able to shoot you back. So this is for shorter range kills. This is for crowd control and sniping. Yes, you can use a shotgun to snipe enemies, which is kind of weird because you normally think the shotguns are very bad in this version. And you also have the Frag 12, which is more or less the same as explained on the 9mm bursting. And then you also have the flechette, which is kind of like the funny part. So you still get -1 range, but you also have 4 fragments instead of 5. So keep that in mind because you lower your total damage. Even though you do more damage with the modifier, you actually have a lot less damage in total because you have 1 less fragment. Critical chance modifier is 20%, accuracy modifier is 50%. So that means this thing will become a shotgun surgeon in the hands of someone who can really use it. The scatter will again be very, very big. So the biggest draw over here is that you have a much higher chance of wounding an enemy because you have the wounding perk or trait. I guess you can call it a perk, but also the armor penetration. Hits will ignore 35% of the target's armor. So that means not only will you deal more damage, you have a better chance of critting, you also have a better chance of wounding the enemy, you also have a better chance of dealing a lot more damage. So sometimes it will feel like this is kind of like a critical almost all the time, but believe me, it's not really critical. But it vastly modifies the way you're playing the game. So even if you find heavy armored enemies, if you switch to some flechettes, you will be able to kill them. Which is why sometimes you'll die super fast even if you're armored to some of these ammo types over here. So let's go also to the heavy bullets. Not much to say over here, 8% crit chance on the basic ones, but the armor piercing ones are much more nasty. Because they can actually ignore the armor. 0.42 bullets. This is where the game becomes even more complicated because as you can see, well, these are normal bullets, right? Piercing. But then you also get the cryo ammo. 0.42 F, which I guess is Fahrenheit. Cryo ammo. You might be thinking, well, who uses that ammo? Well, I think it's our good friends from I think it's SBN. No, I think it's Encom. Yeah. So our good friends from Encom will use this ammo type. So that means Encom will basically, well, I guess it depends on what they use, but they usually use 0.42 ammo. That means they'll use the piercing ones, and then they also use the cold ones. They also have the flechettes. So this is why I hate fighting Encom so much, because depending on their ammo type, you might be super badly prepared for a confrontation with them. So that's, again, one of the other reasons you die so fast you don't even realize it, is the type of the ammo the enemy is using, plus the gun. They have superb baseline guns, especially once they reach tier 4. Super good guns. And then these things are basically one-shot kills if you are a bit unlucky. So yeah, take that into consideration when you're fighting a faction, because you might need a little extra armor on some of these more specialty ammo types. Also, the more funny thing is that rubber bullets are super strong because they do blunt damage, but they have a damage modifier plus a crit chance modifier plus a knockdown. So it might say over here anti-crowd ammunition, but it's actually super good against the player as well, because this is kind of like everything they need to kill you. Also have the super heavy ammunition, which You might think, well, that's not too bad, is it? No, but then you get to the flak one, which as you can see has a little more damage than usual, plus the crit chance is pretty big, so yeah. You also have the chlorine missiles, which are kind of annoying because you get hit by an RPG or something explosive and then you suddenly see poison puddles everywhere. You just don't know what happened. Also keep in mind that these weapons don't reduce the damage of these ammunition types, don't reduce the damage type of the weapon. Do I have an RPG over here? Yeah. So this will do a lot of damage and it might poison you or it might explode you. And look at this. 90 explosive damage and radius of 3 has a chance to knock back plus the ignition. Ignite, not ignition, ignite. So you can use this to your advantage or you can use it against your enemies. That's about 10 minutes of explaining the ammo types and why you can die so fast. But now let's look at the guns and what they have over here. So backup gun will give an 8% chance to crit with the other weapons. Now this is not very clear, but I think it also gives you the same bonus for itself. So if you have a backup gun and a normal other gun, I think this might increase the crit chance for the weapon, for the pistol as well. But don't quote me on that one because it's kind of hard to prove anyway. Anyway, let's just say it just improves the crit chance of your main weapon. So if you have a crit chance of 8 plus whatever the ammo crit chance is, let's say 20, that's 28 if your character... Again, it's a lot of speculation over here because you don't really have real data. It just says 20% more crit chance modifier. So that means if your character has a crit chance of, let's say, of 10%, with 20% more crit, that will only be 2 more points. So that will be 12% crit. But just don't believe it. Just really appreciate the crit chance as it is, because most of the times this is what gets you killed or what you use to kill other enemies. So that's how the current meta works. You need a backup gun for this buff, but also to switch to a different damage type. For example, this one is very good because it has a range of 4. It does... it uses IGVAS, which means it has entropy damage, which nobody really has good defenses, except for a few elite type troopers. And it has pretty good stats. Over here we have something new, like for example the bipod and the suppressive. Suppressive will reduce the enemy's accuracy by 60%, which is one of the best things you can have. So don't discount the heavy machine gun. You can get it very easily in the beginning of the game by just disassembling a turret. The heavy turret, this is also how you make them as well. You need a machine gun. This is the funny part. You might be thinking, well, this was trash in the beginning and then it's kind of good and now it's not really that bad. It has a range of 5. And if you shoot it from behind cover and you shoot it at a group of enemies, they'll basically be stuck over there. You're suppressing them and they cannot really hit you. They cannot do anything. So this, let's say you have the legacy and the pistol. It's actually a pretty good combination if you think about it. Which again also works on the player, but I never really saw this. I will just assume this also works. I don't think it works for the turrets. Never mind, I don't think it works for the turrets. But how would you know for sure? Anyway, yeah, if you get shot by an enemy with a legacy machine gun, it will be very hard to hit them back. This is more or less the same thing, but notice how everything can have slightly different variations to all of this. And even this one can have, let's say, 2 strikes, depending on the battery type. And this is again what gets you. So as you can see, this can also have different ammo types. So if they have the better ammo, that means they'll hit you much harder. So sometimes they're dangerous, sometimes they're not dangerous at all. Look at this. Blunt damage or 3 times. Yeah. Can get very nasty. Or even 2 times. Backstab and accurate throw. This is kind of like the funny one. Not much to say about here, but these are silent if I remember correctly. Unaware targets have more crit chance and crit damage is massively increased. Accurate throw. So this throw will always hit the enemy. So just in case you want to play as Rambo or you want to play a more stealthy game or you want a stealthier approach, you can also just use the knife in the beginning of the game, which is pretty good, plus this thing over here. So the gun will always seem like a bad choice, but if you look at all of the things it has, it's great. So laser sight, the effective range. So if you shoot an enemy at a range of 4, it will always hit. It's a 95% chance to hit, but it's almost 100%. So it will not miss, it has a chance of knockback, it has the backup gun, it also has a silencer. And that, well, I guess I should explain that. If you hit something at a distance of 5 tiles, you actually lose 30% of your damage, according to that graph. So that means this gun is actually very, very good when you hit someone. I mean, it's very hard to miss with this gun if it's at 4 range or something like that. Plus, if you use the better bullets like I explained so far, it will seem a little bit overpowered against the normal enemies. Same over here, same over here. Now, also keep in mind that the different types of weapons can dramatically change the way the game is played or how a weapon functions or works. So this is just armor penetration, but the improved one has armor penetration and collimator. So what this means is it will have a lot less damage reduction per tile, so it will hit targets at a very, very, very long distance. It can probably hit accuracy up to 10 tiles, so it's actually worth it to shoot, but use the smaller bursts, because if you shoot too many nails, then the scatter becomes even more prominent and then you will not hit anything most of the times. Also look at the crit chance, look at the ammo type. So a weapon like this is actually much, much, much better than you think. Just remember that you cannot use this weapon if you move, so you are better off staying in one place and just shooting until all of the enemies die. Also, we'll have weapons that have corrosive and poison spreading, so yeah, 20% chance to leave a poison puddle in the trajectory. As you can see, this also, the damage of this gun falls off very, very fast. So basically, this can be very good against group, especially when there's a big conga line of enemies attacking you in a hallway. And the chemtrail is actually pretty good overall. I guess I should show you the ammo. Poison spreading and corrosive crit chance 8%. That's where the crit chance of most of these weapons comes from. So that's why you might think, well, there's no crit chance without any ammo, but if you put the ammo, it will be 8%. If you have the backup gun, this would become 16% plus whatever your character has. So yeah, corrosive damage to the armor. Corrosive is only something that is useful against the player because you don't really destroy the armors of the enemies. It's very hard to deal with, so I guess that's why you'll lose a lot of patience when fighting these guys. Let's go to the lightning guns. Painful crits. 300% of the pain of the normal one. I think it's the damage. I don't know why it says the pain. I'll just consider this is 300%. Painful crits is one of the best modifiers in the game. So if you have a painful crits modifier, if you have a character that can crit well, and if you have all of the right ammo types and all of the other stuff, this is what one-shots most enemies. Let's go over here. Now, if you look below the condition of the weapon, you can see what damage type it deals. And you can see this is shock, but this is plasma. Plasma damage I already explained, where you can see the resistance against it. And let's look at some other stuff. This is incendiary and overclocking plus overheating. So whenever you have something that has the incendiary thing, that means you'll most of the time set them enemy on fire. So if you're struggling in the beginning of the game a lot because you cannot kill the hordes of enemies, maybe shoot a few poison things, or even better, plasma. That will burn them off. Also, continuous attacks increase damage by 15%, by 15 points, which I'll assume it's that. Which means if you're fighting a big group, this is the perfect weapon. But it also decreases the durability a lot more. So this is a very specialized weapon. Also have a shock rifle over here that has pierce through, which can pierce through multiple enemies. Optical sight, the way this works is if you're trying to hit an enemy that's closer than 4 tiles, you'll do a lot less damage. You also have reduced accuracy. I think it doesn't say over here, but we'll have reduced accuracy with a sniper rifle at close range. And you'll not deal as much damage. So that's why you should kind of have two weapons, one long range and one short range. Now look at how good this one is. For example, this one has the painful crits, the backup gun, and the knockback. So it might knock back a melee enemy. It will give you the bonuses plus the painful crits. Yeah, this is kind of good. So it might not seem like it's that good in the beginning, but you also have to look at the magazine and the rate of fire. Just very, very good weapon. Collimator and incendiary. So yeah, this thing will shred. So if you fire this at a big hallway, it will actually hit all of the enemies on the hallway, even if they're, I don't know, 2 screens away, 100 tiles away. And this is why this gun is still one of the most feared guns in the game. This is beam web energy, by the way. This is beam damage, this is plasma damage. Plasma damage has different wounds and has different debuffs on the enemy if they accumulate. So, yeah. I mean, in generally speaking, the shock tends to reduce accuracy, and this tends to give them other debuffs as well. I mean, let's also look at the weapons of the QuasiMorphs a little bit. Amputate when injured, wounding. So, basically, it has a higher chance of wounding, which means it has a very high chance of amputating when it hits you even once. So that's why some of these melee weapons are so dastardly. If you want to make a melee character, definitely try to get some of the quasimorphic weapons. They are much better in some ways, but I guess it takes a while to get them. Also, I like to play with the tactical tomahawks in the beginning, well, if I get them, because they will pierce through, they have wounding, and also they have cleave. So if you find yourself lacking in firepower, just throw a tomahawk. Now keep in mind that this has the accurate throw, and this one doesn't have it, because it has a piercing throw. Many distinctions. Also, this is one of the best guns in the game in a way. Just look at the damage. The scatter is actually decent, but it has a very big range, rate of fire 3 to 6, and you really want something with bipod. Because again, if you have high scatter and if you have the bipod, it will reduce the scatter and increase the accuracy, plus the pierce through. Just so you can imagine the guns. Suppressive fire, you already spoke about this one. Let's just see who has another one. Oh, look at this one. So it's an SMG with painful crits, knockback, and knockback range. 2 tiles. So if you are standing behind lava or just empty space and you're shot by this gun with 3 bullets, that means you have a very high chance of getting knocked out of the airlock. So add knockback range is one of the most sinister things they added in the game, because it can push you into poison, it can push you into fire out of space in lava. So annoying and so very hard to counter. Currently there's mechanics in the game that cannot be countered. One is crit, one is knockback, which also is knockdown. Over here, look at this, you have a plasma weapon that has both armor penetration and incendiary and overclocking. So this means that even if the stats are not impressive, you will ignore parts of the target armor. You also set the enemy on fire, which means almost a guaranteed wound. And then with the overclocking, you're just going to kill it. It's good for bosses or bigger quasimorphs as well. Also have the ramp up shot, so this will fire 8, but every subsequent shot will increase the number of bullets fired by 1. So at a range of 5, if you shoot this weapon 2 times, you'll shoot 10 lightning bolts at the enemy. Well, the only downside is that this will eat the battery super fast, but as you can see, it says what type of ammo it has in it, so it's not... You cannot confuse them with anything else. Oh, we have so many weapons to go through. Yeah. Did you hear that sinister sound? I like that one. So, I think some of the biggest guns you can have that have a silencers will be the SMG. And one of them is the Miltex. Now, this gun is not as good as it used to be because it has very low base damage, so you have to rely on the crits and the silencer. Also, look at the damage of this thing. This is blunt damage, backstab, and knockdown. 76% chance to knock down. Which is kind of amazing. If you have a very strong enemy in front of you, you might as well use this. It's not very useful on throne, but it's very useful for other things. Also, the electromagnetic guns are kind of back in a big shape because they have much bigger ranges. They have pierce-through, which is something that is rare. I mean, this doesn't use ammo, but it has pierce-through, silencer, and armor penetration. So as you can imagine, 31 damage is not a lot, but when you factor in all of these things, they're quite good, especially at decent ranges. This is one of the endgame pistols. Yeah, more or less. I guess it's only tech level 6, but it has the collimator, the laser sight, and the wounding. So that means this pistol is... It's kind of hard to explain how good this pistol is, but this is why you die so much and so fast. Look at that, 9mm HP ammo, 16% crit chance. look at the cut damage and the collimator and the laser sight. Yeah, this basically means you will miss a lot less with this, but also then enemies will be very strong against you. Some of this is also very dastardly. Again, you have a pierce-through gun, which is guaranteed to pierce through the target, that has an incendiary chance based on the ammo type. So that's 6. Anyway, let's reload it and continue. And now I want to listen to this reload sound. That's not so impressive. What about this? Oh, that doesn't reload anymore. Okay. So yeah, piercing through enemies that and you have a chance to set them on fire. Plus, with appropriate clone class and skills, you can definitely make use of this and just create some energy weapon combinations that just kill everything with fire very, very fast. Because you also have something that increases the fire damage, I think, or fire duration, but also the damage of battery-based guns. But this class is very hard to obtain and very hard to modify and very hard to upgrade. Unkish. It has a cool name, right? I guess I have to explain a little better what all of this is and why you will die to it a lot of times. Look at this. This is the DLVT saw blades, which are toxic. This produces poison damage with ricochet and wounding. And this is where the game gets very, very nasty. So, this actually does poison damage, which you might not have armor against, has a range accuracy and crit chance that are pretty good, but look at the rate of fire, 2 or 4. So if you fire 4 of these at an enemy group, you'll shred them to pieces. You also have to account for wounding and amputating and piercing through and ricocheting. So if you fire this in a small room, you might kill everyone, including yourself sometimes. Pierce through is also pretty nasty as well. You can... yeah, it's very bad. So this is why you get killed by the Serpent's Mouth Quasi rifle. This rifle is one of the best sniper rifles in the game. Mostly because, like I mentioned, there are no good armors that protect you against this. There are a few of them, but they're very, very rare. And I think only 1 or 2 corporations actually have good protection against cold and fire at the same time. So in case you get one of these, make sure you get a few Quasi Bronze things. And just use it as a backup weapon to kill the most armored enemies you find in the beginning of the game. Entropy damage is very good for that. Cleave. Not much to say over here, just a lot of damage. Just a normal flamethrower. Just a normal rifle, right? Yeah, but the idea behind this rifle is that its damage is amazing. So it doesn't matter what the ammo you're using, it mostly... okay, let's say like this. When you're looking at the weapon, the thing that will determine its damage is the class of the weapons. We have basically pistols, SMGs, smaller assault rifles, or just assault rifles, and then you have the heavy assault rifles. So this, and then you have the sniper rifles. But this shouldn't do this much damage. But look at how much damage you can deal with a .42 bullet. You can deal 41 to 71. Kinda funny, right? So don't ignore this factor as well. Depending on the weapon, you can actually use a lot of cheap ammo to inflict a lot of damage. We already know about the machine gun. Plasma generator. This is also a very, very fun weapon. The damage is 200%. Range accuracy is 50. Range is 4, but you might also... this one uses gasoline and it shoots plasma. But with armor penetration, incendiary, and overclocking, this really shreds a lot because it comes close to 84 damage, which means if you ignore the armor, if you have overclocking and with the other stuff, that's a rate of fire of volume 1, but as can you imagine, this will melt enemies. It's on 1. Suppressive fire as well. So not only does it have suppressive fire, it also qualifies as a backup gun. So in case you're having to fight an enemy that has a big gun, shoot it a couple of times with this. The only problem will be the effective range, but as you can see, some of the handguns really have a lot of utility as well. Plasma pistol, the same as the plasma generators. Pennants, Prometheus. Yeah, Warhammer 40k inspired. This is the Bison SMG. And you might be thinking, well, this is kind of bad, but think about it. Knockback and painful crits. 100%. I think this just means you'll have a 300% crit of the pain of a normal one. This is so weirdly written. So when you have a combination like this, it will do a lot of damage, plus it will knock back enemies. But again, you have to be very careful about these modifiers, because this is kind of like the new balance of the game, the modifiers. Look at this one, crank charge. It doesn't consume ammo, but requires reloading. That means you'll fire a lot more often and you don't need any ammo for it. Here's for an incendiary, which is great for, you know, some targets. But sadly they nerfed it, so it's not as good as it used to be. The Mengele, poison knife. Corrosive, so I'm not sure if this has multiple attack. I think this has multiple attack types. Again, it's just a cool weapon that I wanted to show. I think it can use physical damage and poison damage. Also, you can use this to put out the fire. So in case you're using one of the incendiary weapons or just one of the energy weapons, you might want to take one of these along with you, just in case you get surrounded by fire a lot of times. Also, it's worth noting that this is cold damage with an effective range of 4. So it's much better than water, because you can actually put out a larger amount of stuff out. I don't think it can be repaired. I think you just lose as durability when you use it. Oh yeah, cool machine gun. Plasma shotgun. Plasma damage. Battery. Again, we spoke about these things. Let's see what other interesting things we have over here. Oh yeah, this is one of my favorite pistols. Look at the amount of damage you can do with a normal 9mm bullet. It has a capacity of 24, 16 to 38, backup gun, and knockback. Just one of the best pistols in the game, if you can call it that. Very cool. Also, you can have things like this with laser sight and silencer. So this is another example of the silencer weapon. This might be one of the best silence weapons in the game that you can actually get at a decent rate. Well, maybe except for the other weapons. But again, this is 4 bullets per shot. This is the heavy submachine gun, which is not really a submachine gun. I would qualify this as a heavy rifle with collimator and painful crits. This is also another unique combination. So you'll get hit super hard. Sorry about that. You'll get super hard. You get hit super hard, and if you get critted by one of these, you'll definitely feel it. So if you're using one of the builds that has a very high crit chance, imagine if you're going to crit 1 out of every 3 shots with this gun, and you'll always fire 3 bullets. So that means every shot will be, let's say, 150. Let's say that every shot from this rifle will be 200 guaranteed damage almost. It depends on the armor, but you can also, well, I guess it's, let me show you, super heavy. So this is the normal ammo, but you can also use the explosive stuff. So yeah, this thing will shred entire groups of enemies very fast. The only thing is that it doesn't have is a pierce through ability or some of the other stuff. I'm not sure. I have to play more with the heavy ammo and the heavy weapons to kind of make my opinion of this ammo type and caliber. You also have laser, so you have plasma and laser. So this is a beam shotgun, effective range of 4, which can use tilty batteries, as you can imagine. That's much more wicked. So yeah, as you can imagine, this will increase the lethality of this laser shotgun to unbelievable standards. So the range will be 4, so unlike the other shotguns, it will not have reduced range based on the ammo type. Anyway, you get the idea. Also, you have the star blade, the laser power sword, cleave and amputate when injures. Damage is kind of low, but it has other benefits. It's a beam weapon. Again, you really have to be careful about these details, otherwise you'll die and not know why. It's a beam melee weapon. So it's a laser weapon. It's more like a lightsaber than a power sword from Warhammer 40k. Then you have the laser rifle, which is a beam damage type, pierce when incendiary, which is amazing. Plus the collimator helps it. Basically, you'll be able to hit enemies at 20 distance with this one. And this is a laser. This is a laser. Beam, pierce through incendiary, optical sight. This one has collimator. This one was optical sight. So kind of decide what you like more. This is level 7. This is level 4. So this is much stronger, even though the damage is only slightly better. Alright, this shotgun over here. As you can see, with the damage you have from the shotgun and the other stuff with the flechettes, armor penetration and wounding plus collimator makes the shotgun super deadly. So even if it says effective range 3 over here, don't trust it. This is actually about 5 range, so this is why this shotgun is so good. And it's kind of harder to identify because some of the weapons will be much better with other damage, with other ammo types or other damage types. Also, you can look at the basic stuff. I'm not sure if it says what type of reload it has, but this is per bullet. You reload 1 bullet per 1 action per turn, which is kind of fun. The bishop is 3, and this is 6. So I guess this will be a much better idea on how the damage is improved with the gun and the ammo type and some of the other stuff. So yeah, I think that's kind of enough to clarify the system of the guns and the ammo and the other stuff in the game. And I'm not even considering the classes and the other bonuses you can get from that. So think of flechette ammo, think of the shotguns I've shown you. Oh yeah, I guess I should show you with Percy as well. Yeah, let's get some of that flechette ammo, which I plan to mass produce, but I guess I never found the chip for it. This is the basic stats for this gun. Yeah, it's tech level 8, but you can imagine how cool it is. So 18 to 46 with a tunnel rat 4 times, which means, let's just say 80 to 160 damage. Crit chance will be 34%, again, mostly because of the stats I have on him. But with a capacity of 20 shells, with a rate of fire of 2 to 5, with armor penetration, knockback range, laser sight, and wounding, this is a total monster, as you can imagine. The effective range is 5. Guys, I'm using the robot head also. Such a cool game, and all of these things will definitely be very, very useful later. Now, I also plan on gathering all of the guns, and that will make a lot more sense when I can showcase all of them. Right now, I think I have most of them, but I'm missing the endgame stuff, so that's why I'm not doing a comprehensive video on all of this. But I think now we all understand our guns and ammo types. Bye-bye.